Countdown continues, doesn't it, guy? In the background right now, it's MSNBC, Lawrence Donald Show. Um, it is 7:16 p.m. West Coast time. Still the 4th of November, 2024. Uh, Weaver John C. Roseman, California, is here, and dealing with my dog running around left and right. It is hours before midnight. The political pundits are going to be getting their sleep pretty shortly. Vice President Kamala Harris is getting a last hurrah going on in Philly. Trump already finished his, and basically insulting it being uh, well, let's just say he's no gentleman, that's for darn sure. Never had been a gentleman. He wouldn't even know what that was. But those who have been gentlemen, I hope that I hope they understand that the image of a gentleman that's going into an office that's supposed to be of a gentleman. Well, I can tell you that they don't know what it's like being a gentleman. He was no gentleman, especially the way he lived his life and belly aching to people left and right about how his life was shortchanged or how this was taken away, and he must punish. I hadn't heard anything regarding Harris in that situation. I hadn't. And she fought her way up the ranks. By the time people have already seen this, their election's already started or already finished, and one of the two are going to be getting ready their transition team for the Oval Office. Inauguration is going to be in January. Now, here's the question: whether or not we're going to have a president coming in office in January is going to be another story. Whether or not we're going to have the same situation like we did 4 years ago on January 6th. Then people complaining about it left and right that it's going to happen. At the rally, some of them actually been talking about it, and the weirdest thing is, so many independents went over to the rallies last few weeks, and no matter how much boasting there was concerning about rallies were full in attendance, they became less and less. A gas bag is still a gas bag is still a gas bag, and he's still full of hot air, especially when he's trying to bolster himself to a shape that he can't even maintain. He's losing his gas. He's losing his mental abilities, but he still has his anger, his ire, and he has no humility, humbleness, or humanity. What's being reported coming out of his mouth, what the reporters are trying to verify all the time, is how much he likes autocratic societies and he likes autocratic leaders. And there's a lot of fear going on that he's going to have this kind of society here. I remember the first 2 years. And the problem is, what I kept saying was, executive orders would take away a lot of things that we were using for regulatory. And I had seen Roe versus Wade torn apart and states trying to take over and ruin people's lives. We are in for it. As of this day and as of this time, we are in for it. But as Lawrence O'Donnell has been trying to say, he values hope, not pessimism. there's a lot of pessimism being spread around left and right, whether or not we're actually going to have hope or not. You're going to be asking me the same question. It was a fluke that he came in 2016 because people didn't like the politicians or that kind of style. And then they discovered what kind of a style this guy actually had. And there was no way for them to get him impeached. Nor would their cries to the Congress help any. Even when they tried to impeach the guy, it didn't go through because the Senate, who was led by the Trumplicant parties being built up, they weren't going to prosecute. Well, the House of Representatives tried. Trump's been impeached, but he hadn't been convicted. So he's still allowed to be another dictator coming through the ranks. He tried 2020 and didn't work. We had Biden in there. And now we got Harris trying to come in there and see whether or not she's going to be cleaning up any messes not made by President Biden, but the damage control that still needs to be done for the next 4 years. And what's being told by some of the allies of the old gas bag, this is a thing I'm still having an issue with all the time on this one. Government was still trying to pin its hopes on the Boeing company of getting a sustainable capsule. In fact, I wouldn't put it past them to get some kind of proddings going on to the Boeing company, hopefully, to get their capsule working. And if they get a capsule working and it actually works without anything leaking and they can put people up and back down again without having any issues, then what we're going to be needing at this point is a replacement for SpaceX. Now, currently SpaceX is sustainable for now, but the one who's in charge of SpaceX and the Starlink and a few other tidbits out there, apparently he is, reportedly, according to a media source, dealing with the autocratic society and bowing to their wishes. Either he's following the money, or he's following his ego, or both. I am not subject under him. But the problem is the American people is. They are. They use the services of the Starlink. I hear people talking about it all the time. I haven't used it. I'm dealing with the companies I know. I prefer dealing with the lunacies I know instead of dealing with an absolute bonkers that I'd rather not know. Especially when he holds the fate of astronauts upstairs. We can't depend upon the Russian government to get astronauts up and back unless it's going to be Russian astronauts up there. And if indeed China is allowing Russian astronauts to go on board their space station, then there's going to be a list more problems. But they're still using SpaceX, so there's that level of cooperation. What I'm worried about is how far this is going to go and how far it's going to crash and burn right now. I want Boeing to get their act together. I want Boeing to get their ship, Starliner, up and running. I'd like to see their operation of getting a ship going to the moon, landing on there, and back. But of course, that they are having issues with the board of directors and the CEO having issues concerning about the mechanics union. I hope they've got that squared away because they're going to need every damn skilled worker and laborer on this one. I'm going to listen to Kamala Harris right now.
That is what real leaders do. That is what strong leaders do. country above party and self, and to be a president for all Americans.
That was about an hour ago in Pittsburgh. The vice president is now on her way to Philadelphia for her final speech of the campaign tonight in Philadelphia.
I hope to hear that one. That was part of her speech. She was trying to bolster up her rally and the people and to convince the country that she is going to be the one. I just hope so. Because if not, I'm hoping that we won't have any issues over the next 3 or 4 months. But getting back to Madam Psychotic, who's running around over here, and she needs to run around. She needs to run around the apartment. I'll let her. I've said so before in my videos, if I'm not mistaken, that we need another ship up there to do the dockings. We need another company out there besides depending upon one, especially when a guy's making all the terms and dictating things and also listening to dictators dictating things to him. It was mentioned on this particular program that when Taiwan needed Starlink to work, Chinese and Russian said no. And Elon Musk backed off. But of course, Russia would need it more and more and deny Ukraine more and more of the Starlink services. Apparently, Elon Musk is an authoritative autocrat and he values money more. Does he value human lives? I like somebody to take over SpaceX entirely away from Elon Musk. If the United States government is just going to be mollycoddled by this guy, NASA administrator needs to have a talking to. What's the problem with this election here is fear mongering is taking its toll. If we have the gas bag as president, they're afraid of the repercussions he's going to order on a lot of people or make strong suggestions to people that'll make lives a lot worse than it already is. Nobody would be able to say no to the gas bag. A lot of fear of military and police being used more and more, worse and worse. But comparing to what it was when Trump was in office, the problem is they still need to have laws passed, and they couldn't do that when you had a strong Republican and a strong Republican for House and Senate, and they couldn't get their act together because everybody else was a little tyrant in there. So for 2 years we didn't have anything but screwed up, and then screwed up deficit. Rules and regulations that are supposed to help the country manage better, but we couldn't get them. See, we're not supposed to be a totally free country. If we're given consent to be governed, then it means we need to have laws and ordinances and likewise to guide us and what's allowed and what's not allowed, and to safeguard us, but also to remind us and imprison us if we happen to go over certain laws and restrictions. Otherwise, we'd have total anarchy. Think of it. We have total anarchy. Somebody actually said the Constitution is no longer allowed to govern us. It's null and void. How do you think that this country is going to follow? Because everybody who swore an oath to the Constitution of the United States now no longer is because it would be taken out by an autocrat, by someone similar to Putin in his thinking. People say, yeah, now I can carry my gun and kill people left or right. Yeah, but what if they hurt your family? Then I get to hurt them. So you would allow mass slaughter? Oh yeah, I'll just walk into a place and just shoot them because I feel like it. And those who suffered for it will take guns and look for you. What goes around comes around. Especially when you take out the safeguards and controls that our laws, rules, regulations, even the Constitution has. We are allowed a semblance of freedom and civility as long as we follow the rules. But if we don't follow the rules, and we're saying the rules don't apply to us, says her. So if they don't apply, then I guess everything's open season, and therefore anything and everything I can do to you, you will not stop it because I will do it to you and I will laugh in your face. Ha 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 ha. But then you'll come back and try to hurt me as retaliation. And you'll say, he 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 he. And we'll have the tit for tat with too much collateral damage. People will complain about food being scarce, prices going so high. Yeah, I've seen and read all those, well, came across a lot of dystopian storylines left and right. And it was also called history. Especially with the countries with a failed government, they tried to install democracy and ended up with a dictator. Try this one, having an empire. Back in the back in the 30s, we did have a few governments out there in countries that wanted to isolate their countries, keep us away from action from other countries. We already just got out of World War One. Why would we get into another war with another country? Let's just isolate, and then our markets shut down. There was crashes happening, and not just in America, but all over the globe. People struggled. People fought. Gangs took over. But policies came out to save. More workers needed to complete a few projects here and here that were just basically to put money in people's pocket. And then Social Security came out. But the unrest was also in Europe and in Asia. And the world wasn't ready to silence the guns for World War One. No, we had to have World War Two going on. What scares the hell out of me in this day and age right now is how far as other countries are going to go to really manipulate us to a point where we're not going to be able to defend ourselves one way or another. Are we going to have a civil war? Are we going to have a civil war? Or are we actually going to be dropping every pretense and engaging the Second Amendment to its fullest? Yeah, that's the thing that's rattling in my gut right now. Are we that dumb enough for it? I mean, hell, January 6th was back in 2020 was an indication, wasn't it? Hundreds of people, thousands of people came over to her. Tried to storm the Capitol to stop an election that already happened. They're stopping the certification, and other people denied it. It didn't happen. It happened, and people don't want to listen to it. They don't want to hear about it. They don't even want to know about it. That's the problem of it. They'll blame it on others, but they don't want to know about it. They just don't want to deal with it. We can get that low. Well, congratulations. We can get that low. We can get lower than that. One person is trying to tell us that we can actually do something positive, have hope. While the rest of the time we're hearing everyone else trying to do pessimism on us. And again, you're going to be asking me the question. But you can't follow my own example. We have listened too much to the fear mongering, to thumping on shields with battle axes and stuff to scare the hell out of people. All it is noise and bluster. If we give in to the noise and bluster, yes, we're going to be pessimistic. But we are going to be hopeful about things. We got to do what we've got to do. And that means we got to look at the situation and ask ourselves, do we want hope? Or do we want absolute pessimism again? 4 years was bad enough as it is. The first 2 years, I couldn't deal with it. If my brother had been alive, he would have been able to deal with it. Actually, he was dealing with the first 2 years of it. I think it was really depressing the crap out of him. And then I had to be the witness for the other two. And then try to see Biden work his way of trying to deal with the combative Congress, House of Representatives, who just didn't want to be cooperative. It's no wonder that when I kept seeing this fictional show all the time, trying to understand, trying to glean from it, that I see more and more coming out of it, and it scares the hell out of me. It freaks me out. It's upsetting me a great deal in it. Because I'm identifying more and more with it. I'm comparing it to right now as it is. And I'm wondering just how far is this going to go for us? Yeah, I'm worried about it. I should be worried about it. I should be driving myself bonkers over the damn thing. But I haven't. I need to hold it in. I need to be able to get a good night's sleep. At least 2.5 or 3 hours if I'm lucky enough. Then get up and pace myself, as someone suggested. Because I'd rather be dealing with hope instead of a hell of a lot of fear and anger and anxiety. Tomorrow's pins and needles day, ain't it? If we still want to hold on to the pessimism and the depression, the anger, the frustrations, everything else is ugly in us that we feel. The fear and terror, and someone else's fearful boot on us. And I'm talking about when they're trying to intimidate you with just mere presence, with glares and puffed out chests and shifting of body masses and an ugly stare in their face. A very skull. You can't be voting for that person. You gotta be voting for our guy. You got me. You get me. It's faces like that. I'd rather find something humorous and laugh at them. What are you laughing at? My God, you're worse than Bozo the Clown. Who? That's what happens when you're an old fart remembering old fart things. It goes right over your generational mindset. that you wouldn't even know what a clown was unless you looked in the mirror, and unfortunately, you keep breaking yours. Not that I'm telling that their mug is ugly. I'm just saying that they probably broke it because they couldn't stand their own ugly mug. Somehow, when you look in a mirror, I know you look at a reflection, a light reflection. Sometimes, if you stare deep enough, you're looking at your own darker nature coming out. Or, if you're full of hope, then you have somebody smiling their faces off on the other side. If I happen to have anything like that, I'm going into a shrink and tell them I got schizophrenia. I had voted previously, as I said before, as I indicated in the video. I had voted. I had to because I wasn't about to wait in the long lines. We depend upon public transportation out here. It's called taxi, dial-a-ride. Schedule rides for certain times if we're lucky to get it. Otherwise, it's going to be a 3-mile walk from here to the voting booth. Now, since I got a mere yard or two away from the door, I've got a mailbox. Marked the ballot, shoved it in there. Oh, guess who's here? Okay, so let me see if I can get her on the line.
The Tim Walz speech was also delivered to the audience in Philadelphia. Did they manage to pull that off? I guess we don't have Speaker McClinton at the moment. She is there somewhere in that rally in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, where they're waiting for the vice president to arrive. The vice president, I'm told, has landed at the airport in Philadelphia. And I think we now have Speaker Joanna McClinton.
Well, I guess we may when I get it.
Okay, we don't have her. We're going to continue to cover the events as they're unfolding in Pennsylvania tonight. Vice President Harris has had to travel from a very...
So while this is happening at this point, get it for a bit. I'm hoping that tomorrow will be a hell of a lot better. I'm hoping tomorrow I can wake up in the morning, probably with a backache trying to kill me at this point. But even if I happen to get up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, at least I'll be able to stay up and try to do something. Maybe a live feed or something, I hope. So, that being said, guys, I'm going to see if my dog's going to wind down a bit. And then we'll see what happens the rest of the evening.